Hi, as the thing has warned you, recording is now in progress. If you do not wish to be seen, well, I'm going to ask you to turn off your video anyway. And we're going to be focusing on my stuff. Feel free to, as always, jump in and ask questions. I have never been one of those people that wants people to be silent. That's just kind of boring. We are finishing up Insular Majuscule today. We're going to start with the letter Q and work our way through all the way through the second form of the letter Z. We have two forms of S that we're going to be learning today as well. You will notice this time I pre-lined everything. So none of the problems that we had last time. Are there any questions before we get started? I will take that as a not right now. All right, so the letter Q is really just the letter C, and then we're going to do a short descender on it. The descender on the Q is shorter than the descender for the P or the R, or pretty much, well, yeah, those are pretty much the only two letters with major descenders. The Y has a descender, but so yeah, it's just shorter than the other two. And so remember, it's flat to the line. If we turn the page 90 degrees to what we're working, it'll work better for you, which is why I am having to change everything. Well, it might work better for you. Some people said, wow, that made a lot of difference. Other people are like, that's a little confusing. Now I got to figure out where I'm at on the screen. All right. Am I straight? I am. All right. So, and make sure that you can see what I am doing as everything starts falling on. All right. So the letter C, remember with Insular Majuscule. So I want you to be able to see better. There we go. Is a big open script. We want to make big open letters. Oh, come on. And of course, my ink is deciding to do funny things. Huh. I don't know what that's all about. Go ahead and pull that over here. And then with the descender, go here. And then just bring it down. And I may need to get another pen. The bottom serif or foot, they say go ahead and go to the back of the line and then fill it in. And I'm going to check my pen and we'll see what's going on with it. Ah, that would do it. That wasn't very nice of it. Right then, we'll switch that one out, put another one in. Things I should have done before class. No biggie, we'll get it done. All right, that's good. That goes back in, goes back on, and we try again. That's going to write better. I might not write better. Come on. Always got to tease it out when it first starts to flow. There we go. Much better. So, and then you can certainly come down and fill that in. Yay, the ink is flowing. All right, now to make one that doesn't look like junk. I say junk to be polite. We all know what I mean. Nice and open, big and wide. Bring it down, come up. Finish off that C. That C actually just becomes part of that serif up here that just entirely disappears. You're still making a beak serif up here at the top, but because there's this curve, it just gets subsumed into it. So this time, without making any exaggerations, big open C, because it's an open script. Bring that down, foot to the end, make a beautiful little curve there. And that's the Q. It's a pretty simple letter. Not that I'm making it as pretty as I could, but it's a pretty simple letter. The R is a little bit of fun. With the R, we essentially start with the last stroke of the Q, except we're going to make the foot go to the front of the line. And we're going to make it longer. Okay. So the belly of the R is pretty much the second half of the O. It's a lot like the P, but it's not quite. I like to start it off with that and then make the nice big R here. Some people will actually just bring it in and then go down. Some people will stop there and then bring this here and then continue the R out that way. It's up to you how you want to do it. I will do it the way, the other way here real quick for you. So you bring it down, go ahead and just bring it in and bring it up. Now, the nice thing about the R is you can make this as long or as short as you want. If you're at the end of the line, you can do that whole fun thing there. If you are right next to another letter, you don't have to make it very long at all. It can be nice and short. This does not go to the baseline. And you can just leave it right there. If you really want, you can stop at that imaginary line that's here. You know, it just depends on what your spacing allows that you are working with. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now we have two different S's here. We have the short S and we have the tall S. This S is a little different than the modern S in that the top part of the S actually has more white space than the bottom part of the S. That's why it wasn't quite working for me. It wasn't quite level. There we go. So we want to make a big curve up here that goes slightly below that middle part of the line, and then a shorter one here. And in that way, it's a lot like the modern S. And you can just bring that in. I think that's probably a little too balanced, but you do notice that the white up here at the top does have more white space than here at the bottom. If you want, you can actually not make those top and bottom lines as long, and then you can play with it a little bit more, straighten that out. And you see how you get that little bit of a curve by doing the pen twist. And I can do the pen twist here to a flat and then bring it in as well. So, and that one really shows off how there's more white space in the top than there is on the bottom. However, it does it at the expense, because I didn't quite do it right, of not quite being as far over as it needs to be. And that's my fault. That should have been over just another half a nib width-ish. But I personally prefer to make these longer like this. and then just fill, and then do these. I just find it easier. That doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it different. All right. So now we're going to go to the tall S. The classic way that the tall S is shown is not the way I prefer to do it, but I will go ahead and show it. By the way, when doing Insular Majuscule, it is every third line. So you're skipping 2 lines between each form, between each writing line. So the classic way that this is taught, and that doesn't make it the right way or the wrong way, is that you draw an eye. Pretty simple. And there's some people, again, with the eye like to bring the foot over. Some people just do it that way. That's fine. And then after having drawn the eye, they draw the top part of the S in 2 strokes. And a little bit of a pen twist at the end. Now you don't have to bring it down flat. You can stop part way and then twist it as well. You notice it makes it pretty easy to miss. You have to be very spot on. So I don't like that way. I much prefer this way. I start at the top. I bring it down. I go ahead and I draw my foot. This gets drawn. I make a little bit of a twist, and then I put in the beak serif. And lo and behold, I don't look like I miss anymore. So this one's a little bit shorter on the hook than it should be. I think that's just faster and better. It's up to you how you wish to do it, but that's my way of doing it. All right. So we have seen the short S, we have seen the tall S. Is there a rule in Insular Majuscule for which one you're supposed to use and when you're supposed to use it? And my answer is I haven't found it. You'll see the tall S in the middle of a letter, in the middle of a word. You'll see it at the end. You'll see the short S in the middle. You'll see it at the end. There really isn't what we see in later period, where the tall S is pretty much any S that's not the beginning letter or not the end letter, which is not a hard and fast rule, but it is a pretty good general rule. In Insular Majuscule, it's just not there. It's what do you want to do? As far as I've been able to tell, it really is scribe's choice. And if somebody can find something that says otherwise, I'd love to see it. But at this point, that's my not that, you know, been doing this script for about 13 years, maybe more. And I just haven't found anything yet. But again, always willing to learn something new. All right, the letter T. We have 2 ways to do the letter T. We can do the top part of the T first. The T is essentially a short G, by the way. Do the top part first, and then do this part. And there's 2 ways to do that. You can take that, kind of push up, or you can stomp and then bring that down. Up to you. Yes, you should be hitting the baseline. Oh, come on, Ian, you can do better than that. I apologize for the top of that T. Now, the other way, of course, is that you can draw a C. and then do your T. Whichever one you feel is best for you. I am not going to tell you one is better than the other. I have a tendency to draw the top of the T first, but that's just a tendency. I actually don't think it's better or worse. It doesn't really make a difference to me one way or the other. All right, I am going to now do what I think is the hardest letter in this alphabet, and it is the letter U. It is really hard to balance the letter U. And that's because it has so many, it has two beak serifs right next to one another. And it's a stealth problem. So you do your first beak serif. Now the U is a lot like the L or the B at the top, except, we're just going to do a curve here, come down, and then make sure we hit the baseline and we'll stop. If you bring it up a little, that's fine. You don't have to. Sometimes it happens. In this case, it happened. Now I've got to put in another beak serif. And this one's going to go, and then the line for that one's just pretty much going to go straight down. All right, fine. Let me do another beak serif. And I bring this down. This foot goes that way. Uh-oh. Notice the problem? Okay, the top is far enough apart. But now I gotta match up here. And it always feels awkward to me every single time. And again, I've been doing this for 13 or 4 years or longer. And this to me is the hardest letter. And it's just like, okay, I have these two things that are really close to one another. And now I've got to make a big bowl in the bottom. And when you put it in and right next to other letters, it works. It's beautiful. But this letter always feels awkward to me when I'm drawing it. It shouldn't, but it does. And that's, everybody has that one letter in every script that is a little funny for them or a little difficult. And U happens to be mine in this script. So we'll do it again because, just because it makes me feel awkward doesn't mean you shouldn't see it many times. Beak serif, curve. Now, if I shorten the curve a little bit, I always want to make this too short. So make this at least a nib width, maybe a nib width and a half. And that to me feels better. But it's not as wide and as open. It's not horrible. And, we get to have our choice of how to do it. And that's the fun thing about being a scribe is that you get to do your hand of the script. There we go. That should make it a little easier. Now, the nice thing is with this is that if you do screw this up and this doesn't get quite close enough, you can judge where you need to be over here to make the connection. So it really does self-solve, but it's awkward to me every single time. Is there a letter V in this script? No, there is not. However, if you feel the need to do a V instead of just doing a U, because you feel that the person that you're writing this for would do better to have a V, start it off the same way with the U. And instead of drawing straight down, bring it in. And that can be a V for you. Another way to do that is don't put the serif there. However, when you don't put the serif in, it looks funny, doesn't it? Even if I had brought that out a little and done that, it really needs the serif. All right. And there's no W, but if you feel the need to have a W, I highly recommend doing a U and then doing that next ending that I talked about with the V. So, and by the way, two U's in right after each other, that is a W. It's kind of how it got started. However, with this W, don't make a single beak serif. See how I did that? I missed completely, but there we go. That's what it should have been. And that's how I would write a W without the mistake. Actually, I'd write the mistake and I'd go back and I'd scrape this. Now, another way to do this is to have the U here and quite literally draw that second U so that they touch. And you have a double U. It really just depends on what you want to do, but those letters, the V and the W, do not exist in this script in period. All right, so X is different, and I'm actually going to write it kind of flat and normal. So I'm going to move things. So this X is a bit weird, as you've probably noticed. It starts off, and I am going to turn things just a little bit. There we go. It starts off kind of like that. And then I get to come over here and put in a serif. And then I can draw this one down here and put in a foot. And then if I want, I can come up here and twist that a little. And then this part of it, I can go here. That's a lot.
Can you do that again? I'm trying.
Go ahead.
Can you do that again? So I'm trying to figure out which way you're holding the nib angle.
This is a lot of weirdness. And it's only weirdness because there's just so much going on with this. It's more complicated than I think it needs to be personally. So I don't blame you going, hey. So the first stroke, simple enough. We've made that stroke before. So no complications there. What I like to do, honestly, is that I go from here and then I come up. You notice my pen's now at a 45-degree angle. It's not flat, but it's about to get flat. There we go. Yep, running out of time. We have 10 more minutes. Yes, yes, thank you. Come on, go away. Get out of my screen. There we go. This, move that there, and try and keep it flat, and then make a little bit of that serif that we do on the T or the G. And then this, I come up with a flat pen here, kind of, and then oh no, I want to diagonal it. And I come here and I do another serif. Now, instead of leaving it that way, I could come here and then flatten out and do the serif. And I can come up here, but that's no longer the right way to write the X anymore. It's not even vaguely looking correct. So start with this. I actually came up on the corner of my pen to get that. and a pen twist. Y, I think, is the funkiest letter we have. It's a lot of fun to write, but it is completely just different. Ah, I spilled something. And my handy dandy paper towels is not available. All right. And I actually got on my paper. Not happy. All right, so the Y is a little bit of the X, but longer. I take this, make the Y there. Then I come here and do that, make a tail here and come down. That's a Y. So imagine your regular Y melted. And so it kind of melts this way and it kind of melts that way. It ends up bending over and then this curls. I think it makes more sense if you think of it as a Y melting. So the Z has two forms, and you start off with that T's, with the TG thing. Come over, bring it down, make a foot. And then we're going to make a curl. That's it. That's the whole Z. A little more complicated than it needs to be, but it's actually pretty simple. And by the way, everything's more complicated than it needs to be in the script, quite honestly. But it's such a pretty script and I love it. So that's the first form of the Z. The second form of the Z, I think, is easier, a little bit more swooshy, but I don't know, I like this first Z better. So we're gonna go, this actually descends below. Go ahead and give it a foot. And then we just come up here and do that. If you like the swoopy loopy thing, this is the Z for you. It works beautifully. There are people that say this should never go past here. You see it go past there on a regular basis. Maybe not this too much, maybe not this much. It's a little too much. But that one's about right. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. Any questions? Any things you want to see again? Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording.